And welcome back to the TSF Entertainment Channel. No time for foolishness. It is your boy Retro CG. I'm in the building tonight with Miss Really
I
Big
don't think that's
TV.
foolishness.
I think it is absolute foolishness.
TSF family, TSF family. We're taking a vote for where the TSF crew should take me for my birthday. DJ Fresh Your Highness and Retro CG. It's a restaurant in the DC area. I'm taking suggestions.
Okay. Anyway, it's your boy Retro CG, and I'm in the building tonight with Miss Really Big TV. And we got our resident DJ in the building, Mr. DJ Fresh Your Highness. What's up?
What's going on, fam? What's going on with y'all?
Hey, man, everybody week. Well, we know Really B was on vacation this week, spring break, so she enjoyed her week.
Oh yeah, she probably had a ball.
Yeah, she had a ball. What about you?
We just done some other stuff. Oh, it wasn't spring break for me, so still was regular old work.
Yeah,
no spring
right.
break for me.
Regular work week for us.
Yeah, it worked for me.
All right, guys, we're here.
I'll be back on that grind next week.
Yeah, you'll be back on that grind next week. So we are here, episode 7, Bel Air, season 2, and it's titled Under Pressure. Damn, this season feels like it's moving fast.
Yeah, dude.
Well, how many more episodes are there? Are there only like 3 more episodes?
I'm guessing 3 more.
Yeah, because I think.
Well, if it's only 3 more episodes, then it's really not moving fast. I mean, we got a couple of storylines that are still developing. We gotta finish up.
That's what I'm talking about. Like, if we're already at episode 7 and we got some storylines that we still got some questions about.
Yeah, season 1. No, so season 1 ended with 9 episodes. So I guess 2 more then.
No, surely we got 10 episodes. I don't think they're going to be able to wrap that up in 2 more episodes. We need 3.
Yeah,
we needed 12 episodes, but I don't think we get seasons anymore.
Well, it depends on if they're going to carry some stuff over into next season. You know what I'm saying? But yeah, I agree.
Probably so, most likely. All right, guys, I'm going to go ahead and hit y'all with the intro, and we're going to be back to talk about it. And we are back. Episode 7. It's titled Under Pressure. What did y'all think about the episode?
I'll be honest. I don't like Will, and they are making him more and more unlikable. I just don't like him. I don't.
Fresh?
Yeah, I'm with East. Well, not the season, but as far as like this episode, I don't know how I feel. I can't get this. It's like, I guess it was one of those episodes where like it had to be written. Like we had to get backstory, but at the same time, it was just like it was so many stuff just like unleft. Like I probably wasn't a big fan of this episode, especially at the end. I definitely wasn't a big fan of the episode. So I think this, but I'm guessing however many more episodes is left, that's probably going to go upward, for the season. But I think this particular episode, I wasn't really liking it that much.
I'm not feeling this episode either, and I'm starting to agree with Really B and Bell. This season, not really getting the feels. I don't know what it is that I'm going to put my finger on by the end of this recap. I'll figure out what it is that I don't necessarily like about this episode, maybe season. But I agree, Will is just he into everybody's business. He's just doing so much, and he's getting on my nerves. I'm so irritated with Will.
I mean, I think because we keep forgetting, like, yo, he's a kid, but it's like at the same time, the way they write it,
exactly,
don't make it seem like they're kids. So that's where I get a little bit confused myself, because like you and Really B pointed out this season is definitely more cursing this season. And I was sitting there watching, I was like, yo, like, why? Like now they just, I mean, they cursed in front of Uncle Phil and Aunt Viv, and I was just like, really?
Yeah.
Like,
I don't like that either. I don't like all the cursing. I don't like it. To me, it's disrespectful. And maybe I'm just old fashioned, but I don't like it at all.
They're doing
it at school. They're doing it at parents.
Yo, yeah, I don't think there's been an episode where nobody has cursed.
Yeah, they're making it too dark. They're making it too dark.
They're cursing to Ashley, but like, kids, everybody's like cursing. I'm like, dude, like, are y'all for real? Like,
it's almost like they should have written the cast as in college versus high school. Like, exactly. if they would have wrote them in college, I could understand it a little bit more. But they're writing, they're trying to make the series a little too dark for us.
Yeah.
The episode starts off with Vivian and Phil. They're making breakfast for Will and Carlton. And Vivian is kind of worried about what's getting ready to happen as far as Will and Carlton competing for the Founders Award. And she kind of thinks back on their previous interaction when Will first got out there. So, you know, they're in a good place right now. And Uncle Phil and Aunt Viv wants them to maintain that relationship. Yeah. So, you get a little kind of to the 90s Will and Carlton, where they kind of, you know, like picking at each other and, you know, have that little competitive spirit. So I enjoyed that part. But we already know that by the end of this episode, things are going to not go either
way
for either one of them. And so, you know, it's going to be a whole bunch of finger pointing, like you did this, you did that type deal. So I'm wondering if we're getting ready to get back to the Will and Carlton at each other's throat. Because one thing I have enjoyed about this season is that they have been getting along. And I really like that, how they've been writing that.
Yeah. Yeah, I agree with that. I definitely agree.
And I know we're going to get this. I'm sorry.
No, go ahead, Really B.
My bad. Y'all know I got this delay. I know we're gonna get there eventually, but retro is because I'm team Jazz on this one, but we'll get there I'll explain when we get there, but I'm team Jazz on this one.
Okay, all right. Well, we've been having a discussion about that. Phil then takes the fellas out to the golf course, and he tries to give them some pointers, mostly Will, on the upcoming golf tournament that's part of the Founders Award. And so, you know, we kind of see where Carlton has more of an advantage on the golf course. Where Will is concerned, he's a little uncomfortable. He's not in his space. He's not in a comfortable space with this. And we see Uncle Phil takes up more time with Will to try to, you know, give him those pointers that he's going to need to get through a tournament. So I understood that, but at the same time, you can kind of see where Carlton is, you know, getting rubbed a little bit the wrong way, that, you know, his father is more supportive of Will than he is him.
Yeah.
And later on in the episode, we see that
he was wrong for that. In my opinion, he should have stayed out of it. He should have stayed out of it. He shouldn't have helped either one of them. Uncle Phil, when they had breakfast with them, that breakfast should have been, listen, you know, may the best man win. We're going to root for both of y'all from the sidelines. But y'all, because about it, when Will talked to Uncle Phil, he told Uncle Phil he was going to pull out. And he allowed the coach to talk him into staying in it. And the reason to pull out is because he didn't want the competition, and because he knew that Will wasn't prepared to do it. So sometimes you just gotta let people fail. I would have been totally neutral. So because how do you help one without helping the other? And then to say to Carlton, oh, because we know that you're better, that you are already sort of ahead of him, so you're helping him catch up to beat me. Like that. And I just feel like him and Aunt Viv should have just stayed out of it. Both of them should have just stayed out of it.
Well, Aunt Viv actually kind of did. She kind of like stayed, neutral, in the middle. Yeah, I agree. I feel like Uncle Phil should have not have gotten involved. What you gonna say, Fresh?
No, I was agreeing with you. Like, yeah, she stayed neutral. She didn't even want the competition to begin with. So that showed that, like, hey, like, she wanted to keep it neutral. And I also agree that he should have never got involved with it. Now, granted, Carlton is prepared and he's disciplined and all of this stuff, but then it's like, it takes back, you helping Will takes back everything you said to him at the family reunion.
Yeah.
It's almost like you literally just kind of like X that out. Like, everything that you said at the family reunion to Carlton about, you know what I'm saying, supporting him and you don't want to put pressure and like all this stuff. It's like it just cancels it out because now you're helping Will. So yeah, I agree. He should stay out of it.
Yeah. At the end of the day, Uncle Phil, he thinks that he's doing the right thing, but really all you're doing is you're creating this melting pot of confusion that's getting ready to happen between Will and Carlton. Like, you're putting them in a situation where they're going to be at odds with each other, and most particularly with your son. Your son is kind of being left out in the cold for his cousin. So you automatically putting him in a situation where that's going to apply undue stress and pressure on him. And you already know he has anxiety problems. I'm like, you're just creating a recipe for disaster right here.
Exactly.
Later on, they get a phone call where, while they're on the golf course, they get a phone call from Aunt Viv. And basically, she has made arrangements for Frederick, which we learned last episode is Jeffrey's son, to come out to Bel Air and meet Jeffrey. And so they meet up at a restaurant. And I really like Frederick's character. I really like the way they wrote him. I really like the way they wrote him in response to Jeffrey. He wasn't disrespectful. He wasn't, overly upset or aggressive. Versus how Will met his father and how Frederick met his, it was night and day. So I really like the fact that they made him very mature and they made him handle the situation maturely. And I mean, I'm Team Frederick on this, because even though it was a nice gesture for you to bring me out here and finally meet me, it doesn't change the fact that I don't know who you are. And it's going to take me a minute to process. And then you bring him out to a mansion. So not only am I processing me meeting my father for the first time, now I'm looking around at his living situation, and he's living well. And he hasn't came from such an affluent background. So I understood Frederick's character 100% in his feelings towards Jeffrey.
Yeah. Exactly. And with them, giving Jeffrey all those accolades, I knew that was going to backfire. I was like, to someone who doesn't know his father, who he felt like his father was never there for him, that's not making them feel. That wouldn't make me feel good. Oh, we can't live without Jeffrey. Oh, Jeffrey did this for me. Jeffrey did that for me. Oh, when I was a kid, he was there for me. I'm like, that's not helping. That's not helping at all.
I thought that was just me. I was like, I get it. Y'all got to put on this, this, I don't want to say facade, but you got to put on these, like, in a sense, like, can't even think of the word, but basically you got to tell his characteristics of how Jeffrey is to try to soften the blow that he wasn't there, during, while you were growing up as a kid. But I was like, yo, y'all don't realize like that's not helping. That's just making him think more like, yo, he's been here taking care of y'all. Meanwhile, I've been over in England. You know what I'm saying?
Exactly.
Like the father. So it's like y'all trying to hype him up, but y'all not helping hype him up. Y'all are just making it more so. Now I feel like he said, I don't know you. Like they know you, but I don't know you. So I didn't like that either. I just kept sitting there. I was like, why y'all keep hyping Jeffrey up? Like y'all just making it worse. Like he's sitting there just like, oh, I couldn't do anything without him. He runs the house. Like he's family. So your family. It was just like y'all just making it worse for him.
And I think that the point that they were trying to drive home with Frederick was that they were trying to, make Frederick feel comfortable about his father and letting them know that, hey, your father is a good guy. We rely on him or whatever. But you're right. It really had a different effect on on Frederick, because he's like, okay, well, he's such a great, wonderful guy. Why wasn't he here for me? Why did he give me up? And I don't think that they did a good job explaining to us why they gave him up. We knew, based on our own assumptions and a little bit of what they revealed last week, that he gave up Frederick because of his lifestyle that he lived. But I don't think that they made it very clear as to why he had to give up Frederick for adoption. And they haven't explained at all where the mother is. What happened with her.
I just kind of
they explained a little bit. They said he left the mom and and Frederick because of his lifestyle and him bringing danger so he had to leave the family. And he said, I don't know if it was this week's episode or last week's episode, because I watched them back to back. So I don't know which episode it was, but he said shortly after I left, the mom gave him up. She couldn't do it, so the mom gave him up to the system. And you saw on the episode, he said, so you weren't in the system long. He was like, you were adopted when you were 5. And he was like, yeah, lucky me. So the mom did that. When Jeffrey left, but they didn't explain why. Like I said, did she give him up? Did she have a drug problem? Did she what was the mental health issues? We didn't get that, but he did say that.
Okay,
that's what I thought we were going to get.
Yeah, at least a little backstory, as a little bit more of the backstory would have helped us to understand why he had that choice, why he was left with that choice. And I think that would have helped explain things a little bit to Frederick, because, hey, your mother was sick, or your mother, she was on drugs or whatever. I left her with you when she couldn't do it anymore. She gave you up. Not necessarily making excuses for himself, but at the same time, giving him understanding. I think that's what Frederick lacked. Understanding that, not only did I not have a father growing up, but I didn't have a mother either. So, here's the question. Why?
Xavier, I'm not even
sure. And I think but that's what I was saying about some storylines are open for season 3. So if there's a season 3, we always had that door open for the mom to show up, for him to continue to build his relationship with Frederick, probably go down that road. If there's a season 3, I feel like we'll get that.
Okay. Here's where I begin to have an issue with Will. Knowing the whole situation with LaMarcus and how Jazz felt about it, and how Hillary was somewhat uncomfortable about it, even though she created the situation for herself, but she still was uncomfortable about the situation. Again, just like what we're saying about Uncle Phil, Will, you should have stayed out of their business.
That's true.
You should not have gotten involved in their situation. You taking your ass over there to that record store and telling Jazz to take her out on this lavish date, spend money on her, wine and dine her, or whatever. You set your friend up for failure. You set him up for failure.
And Jazz even said, he was like, Netflix and chill. And Will was like, no. But if that ever, remember, they were hanging out in private for a long time. If that's their comfort zone, if they're cool with Netflix and chill, then Netflix and chill. Because listen, staying at home and having a date night at the house can be way more intimate and romantic than going to some expensive ass restaurant. Like, I agree. Will should have just stayed out of it. They were grown, let them handle their business. But two, even if he was going to put his 2 cents in, when Jazz was like, okay, I got it. All right, I'm going to take her out. Okay, we're going to do a Netflix and chill. Let them do their thing because you don't know their relationship. There are some couples where that's their love language. Going to an expensive restaurant, having an expensive date. And then there's some other couples, they're perfectly fine staying at home, ordering in Uber Eats, or let's go pick something up from our favorite restaurant, go back to the house, and let's binge watch something on Netflix. We said we've been wanting to watch, X, Y, and Z. All right, we're gonna do that tonight. That's just romantic. That's just as intimate. And so, yeah, Will should have stayed out of it. But we know why Will did it because he knows that old boy basically didn't declare war and said he gonna get his woman back.
Yep. Yeah. I do agree with that comment, Xavier, that in previous episodes, we saw that Jazz had an issue with them doing things in private. But which all the more reason is why he should have, if Will was going to have a conversation with either one of them, all he needed to say was, hey guys, y'all need to get together and work it out because I want to see y'all, be happy. I want to see y'all work this out or whatever the case may be. He shouldn't have given any suggestions on what they needed to do. Let them make contact with each other and decide on what they want to do. If they wanted to go out for a date, if they wanted to go do whatever, then that should have been a choice for them to make, on how they wanted to reconcile. They may decide they wanted to just reconcile. But, when you planted that seed and watered it on both sides, it was kind of like, you passing messages that neither one of them had said. Neither one of them had suggested about going out for a date to talk about whatever was going on. You made that decision for them. And because of it, it created an even bigger problem because of the money situation. And so, but we'll get there.
Yeah.
We'll get there because I got a lot to say about that. Vivian is struggling with this whole Neiman fellowship thing, which we have seen this throughout the whole season. Scrap the storyline. Just go ahead and fire her. Let her quit or whatever. Let her give back the fellowship or whatever. She doesn't need it. She can do her art thing on her own. She doesn't need this Neiman fellowship because she's not a good fit for it. And she's continuing to struggle with it. They need to scrap the storyline, the whole situation with Reed and all that. All that just needs to go away because I'm no longer interested in it.
Yeah, I'm so tired of this storyline. It's like it took y'all too long to get to
where we're at now. Yeah,
where we're out now with the storyline with Hillary having to tell her to get on social media, and then her having to reveal she was the one who painted that painting that she put under anonymous, and her having to say that like I need to go out on my own and all this other stuff, and the fellowship saying we need to talk and stuff. It was like, man, that could have been handled at like, because what we're on episode 7, that could have been handled in like episode 4.
Yeah,
like that could have been it's been time. You should have been left the fellowship a long time ago. Like, matter of fact, what was that? I think when she told the lady that was like, well, tell him basically then it should have been the fellowship should have been done when she went to I can't even remember I can't even remember his name because he ain't been on the show, but his assistant. At that point, the fellowship should have been done. Like, it should have been done and over with at that point, and she could have just been doing her art thing.
I agree. I think the problem was, I think they had a totally different storyline set up, and for whatever reason, Michael Ealy didn't come back this season. Whether he got another job, whatever the situation was, he didn't come back. And instead of them recasting, which I'm glad they didn't because it's weird when you recast a character. So I'm glad they didn't recast it, but instead it was like they almost had to pivot and figure something out because it didn't. The story didn't make sense that last year they loved her. She was the apple of their eye. She was their pick. They swooned over everything she did and said, and now all of a sudden she can't do anything. She can't get in touch with Reed. He's MIA. Like, and even when she showed up at his office that day, and the assistant was frazzled and was cleaning up, I thought we were going to get to something. Did he have a fit? Did he tear up the office? Like, what happened? And it's almost like they were writing it as they went, and it didn't make sense. You could have just written. I mean, I think it would have been better for them to have just written Reed off, said maybe something happened and he was no longer in that position, and then we pivot from there. But to leave this Reed thing hanging when it was so, you saw where they were going with that storyline, and it's almost like they took the Reed storyline and gave it to Uncle Phil with Eric.
I was gonna say the same thing.
We're not gonna have Aunt Vic give it to Uncle Phil, and it's gonna be the same storyline. And I'm like, yeah. So I think that's the big problem, is that they just didn't know what to do when Michael can come back. They didn't know what to do with the story. Remember, they said she was gonna be doing all this traveling and stuff. She ain't gone nowhere.
And only done one art show that Janice hated. You're right. So last season they loomed all over her. They thought her work was so great. They had been watching her, even wondering why it was taking her so long to come back to the art world. Now she can't do nothing to please them. Right. Scrap the storyline.
Yeah.
And it is difficult to recast characters that are new. This is a new character that we only saw for a few episodes last season. So recasting him really wouldn't have interested us much, because we weren't kind of interested in where the storyline was going, unless they was going to further develop the storyline that they were planting seeds for. So yeah, an off-screen explanation could have simply have been that, you know, he got brought up on some sexual harassment charges by one of the former artists, and that could have gotten rid of his character, got rid of that storyline, and had Vivian more. They should have done with her character this season was having her spend more time with Ashley to figure out what was going on with Ashley, especially when we saw at the beginning of the season Ashley was having a hard time with the whole school teacher thing. That would have been a really good storyline for Vivian to kind of segue into and give us more time with Ashley. This art thing, get rid of it, because it's disinteresting at this point.
I don't think they are, though.
It felt flat.
But yeah, it's got to go. I'm uninterested in it now. I don't care anymore. So
as a result of Doc calling an extra practice in, Will had to cancel his meeting with Uncle Phil. Uncle Phil had planned on meeting with him and giving him some pointers for the Founders Award ceremony. Well, it's kind of like a little pre-reception that they were having for the candidates to introduce themselves to the student body and, you know, stake their position as to why they are a good choice for the Founders Award. And Uncle Phil looks disappointed that Will was not able to make the meeting. He had to cancel it for the practice. And I'm like, I'm glad he did, because Uncle Phil, you were just going to make the situation worse, because had he went in there on some extra stuff and not been his normal self, that would have really upset Carlton, offended Carlton. Like, you know, here my father is helping my competition. So regardless of the fact that it's my cousin, at the end of the day, this is a competition, and my father is setting my competition up to win. Not a good look. Not a good look.
It wasn't a good look. Like Really B said earlier, I didn't understand why he was so. Go ahead, Really B.
I'm sorry, and that's why I said he should just stay. Because again, Will, he's not taking it serious. Like when he did finally show up, and he couldn't even tell you what the tenets of the, like, you didn't even do your, you didn't even find out what the award was about and what the tenets, like. That's why I said stay out of it, because it would be different if Will was really, really putting forth the effort and he was really trying, but he's not. And you know how much this means to Carlton. I just stay out of it.
Xavier, behave. Behave, Xavier.
You know Xavier don't know how to behave.
He doesn't know how to behave. I'm putting Really B on you, Xavier. Save that energy for.
Xavier want to know why he can't be the counselor. He want to know why he can't be the counselor on my channel. I said, because you don't know how to behave.
Save that energy for book 2, Xavier. Vivian and Hillary have a scene, and I kind of feel like they are they've kind of redeveloped her character a little bit, because last season she wasn't really receptive to social media. She wasn't even receptive to Hillary being on social media, whatever. And of course, she inadvertently reveals to Hillary that she was the mystery artist. And Hillary shows her that her post is doing good on Instagram, and a lot of people are, buzzing about the painting. So she then schools her mom on how to use social media and how to make posts. And Vivian just starts doing Instagram lives.
Yeah.
She's doing Instagram lives talking about her art and how she feels about the Neiman Fellowship and how she doesn't feel like she's a good fit for it. Or whatever. I'm thinking to myself, well, you just fired yourself. And we saw she got a text message or an email or somebody saying it's time for you to come in for a talk. And I'm like, yeah, she's gonna get fired. But I mean,
yeah, I didn't understand that though, because
she had to know when she said it. Like, she had to know that's what was about to happen.
It was weird because she was on live, and from the way I looked at it, she got a DM, and I'm sitting up there like, well, why would they DM? Like,
because they were watching the live.
Well, y'all couldn't send a text. Like, I'm sure y'all got the number.
It was something. It was something she received from them.
Yeah, I saw it.
It's time for you to come in for a talk. I'm like, her. But I feel like that was her way of quitting. I feel like once she made that post, like she knew there was no going back from that. So
yeah,
she had pretty much made up her mind when she made that post.
Yeah, it was a wrap for that. So hopefully after this, storyline is gone.
So we're at the ceremony or the pre-reception for the Founders Award, and we see that. Well, actually, prior to us getting to the ceremony, I think Uncle Phil, I don't know quite how. I think he might have called James to come in, which is his partner at the firm. We saw him call James in for a conversation. And, he's basically, James is a little antsy still about what's going on with getting the big client back. And that if they don't get the client back, the firm is not going to do well. I'm not really feeling this storyline either because they're not developing it enough. And I feel like it doesn't make sense. And I think that they're only setting it up for Phil to quit and go work with Erica. That's the only thing that they're using this for. It's a plot device. Yeah. So I'm through that storyline as well, because later on, I think Phil gets a call from Erica, a text or something for a meeting. And she kind of really presented him for a job interview. That's what it was. It was a whole job interview that she had to orchestrate with her firm. And, we found out that the firm is very successful. They're offering him an equity partnership over their West Coast office, 10 offices. So who else thinks that Uncle Phil is going to take this job?
I think he is, and I think what's going to end up happening is like after he takes the job is when he's going to get the catch. Because remember, he asked him, "Okay, what's the catch?" Because I was thinking that same thing before he asked, and I was like, "Why y'all got all these people from Singapore and Tokyo and all these other people like
straight set up?"
I was like, "Just for this, like." Y'all rolling up the red carpet that bad to bring
y'all could have zoomed there.
I was like, yeah, nah. There's a.
But I think this might be one of those. Yeah, I think this might be one of those storylines that I said they're setting up for next season, because I feel like we're too late in the season. I think this is something where by the end of the season, especially if we only have 2 or 3 more episodes left, he's going to take the job, and whatever happens, law firm is going to happen with the law firm. I honestly feel like what they're going to do is they're going to roll the law firm into them. Yeah. I feel like they're going to roll the law firm into this bigger company, law firm, and then he's going to take the job. And I feel like next season is where we're going to deal with the catch and what's going on with Erica and all of that. Because again, that's too much this late in the season. I feel like that's what I feel like.
What is the catch?
I think it's gonna be.
I don't know what the catch is.
It can't be. What's the word I'm looking for? I can't even think of the word that I'm looking for. Where they're trying to hire, because I was like,
maybe the catch is that he got to give up his term.
That yeah, I was thinking more so like because he's black, but then I was like, well, Erica's black, so that defeats that.
Yeah.
I don't know, but I know it's gonna be some type of catch. If he takes that job, I think he's gonna take that job and realize like, yo, it's a catch, and now like I'm in it, and now I'm stuck.
Yeah. And I can't get out.
Mm-hmm.
So after reception for the Founders Award, Carlton is gearing up, putting his table together, and getting ready to present himself to the student body. Connor approaches him with some, you're not going to win, so you might as well quit, type shit. And I felt like Carlton handled him very well, handled the situation very well. But then we see that Drew is back again, pressing up on Lisa, and I'm like, you ain't learned your lesson yet. I'm like, please, Drew needs his ass kicked again.
He really does.
Drew ain't shit. I can't stand him. Like, I thought that he was going to really come back on some, my bad for acting like an ass. Because he tried to apologize to Lisa, and she was like, I don't do bullies. Carlton is my friend, and what you did wasn't cool. He was like, well, can we try again? I'm sorry, blah, 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 blah. But then turn around and do an asshole move in the same breath because he so was the one who sent the video.
Oh, I'll do that immediately.
Yeah, the question is how he get the video, but
that's what I was getting ready to ask. How did he get the video? Because he was not there in that scene. We didn't meet him until we met the BSU. So how did he get the video?
I mean, he might have been. I mean, they never. If I remember correctly, I don't think they ever showed who was recording it. I mean, no matter of fact, I mean, scratch that. I don't think we ever saw that somebody was recording.
Yeah.
So he might have been in the locker room. He might have been the one that was recording. And
maybe.
Because it was so long ago, Carlton and I forgot the name, don't remember that he was the one recording. Because I said, if it ain't Drew, I said it's that girl.
We can jump him together, Xavier. We'll beat his ass together. Let's get him.
I knew immediately from after the thing went to everybody's phone, his reaction. I said, oh yeah, that's Drew. I said, Drew did that. I was like, Drew did that on purpose. I was like, he ain't fooling me. I was like, he did that just so Will could win.
And I'm tired that I get that the show is centered around Will. I get it. But we have so many more interesting storylines. If the show would have just been about Will and only Will, everyone else would have been supporting characters. But because we're getting so much other character development and stories, like Jeffrey's story, Uncle Phil's story, like we are interested in other things on the show besides Will's journey. We know that ultimately each episode we're going to get something as it relates to Will's journey from the streets of Philly to the high life living in Bel Air. We know that we're going to get that throughout the show. But I'm tired of every episode they set Will up to be the hero. Will should have been embarrassed. Will should have been disqualified. He didn't show up on time. He didn't have anything prepared. He gave this, rags to riches speech, and all of a sudden, oh, he's great. He's wonderful. No. The criteria was that each
but I love that. I'm sorry, go ahead.
The criteria was that every candidate needed to present themselves to the student body, and Will didn't properly do that. So go ahead, Really B. What were you going to say?
I agree. No, I was saying I agree. He should have been disqualified. And I love the fact that the girl who asked him the question after he gave his whole rags to riches story, she was like, okay, that's great. Now, how can you incorporate the 5 tenets? I love the fact that she didn't let him get away with it. Had it not been for that video dropping, he was dead in the water. Like, Will was really struggling.
Yep.
Yeah, it was a wrap. If Drew would have never dropped that video, it was a wrap for Will, because Carlton was about to take that. He was for sure about to take that.
So here's the catch. Catch. I'm about to throw something. Catch. Do we think that Drew sent the video, airdropped the video to everyone to help Will because Will was struggling? and he didn't want to see Carlton win because he did make a comment, "Where is our BSU nominee?" So do you think Drew's motive was to help support Will, or was it help support Will in an effort to disqualify Carlton?
I think he was trying to get a call.
Yep. I think it was just revenge for him getting his ass beat.
Okay.
That's it. I just think it was just revenge. That's all. And he wanted Carlton out of it. He ain't really care.
Because the reason why I say that, because Really B makes a good point. I thought the same thing too. If that video hadn't came out in that exact moment when it did, Will was done.
Yeah.
Will was done for. That video really turned the tide for him.
Yeah. I
think it was just he doesn't like Will like that, but at the same time he hates Carlton even more. So
especially now that he got his ass beat by him. So yeah, right. He definitely that's why
y'all keep on going
out. Yeah, I don't really think it has nothing to do with. I think it might be a little bit because that's the BSU nominee, but like I said, I think it's more so because Carlton was the one that beat his ass, and the whole school knows because it got filmed at the bowling alley.
Right.
So I think it's you embarrass me, okay, cool. Now I'm about to embarrass you in front of the whole school. So I think that's all it is to it. I don't think it has anything to do with.
Yeah, I think helping Will was just a side effect. I think his goal was to embarrass Carlton. I think everybody else was how it happened.
Yeah, because I don't even think he was trying to put the dude Connor in it. I think it was more so mainly Carlton, and Connor just happened to be in that whole video when everything happened.
Oh, okay. Point. Fact.
Because Connor just they ain't really care about Connor. It was, you know what I'm saying? It was focused.
Nah, I think he wanted Connor because Connor was. I think he wanted Connor because Connor was playing with the nigga. I think he wanted Connor too.
Yeah, that was the. Yeah.
But I.
That was a 2-for-1 special. Really, it could be a 3-for-1 special. Because it's going to make Carlton look bad. It's obviously going to make Connor look bad. But then at the same time, it kind of puts Will in conflict with Carlton. So it's really a situation where I can knock all of them out. Now that would have been purposeful if Drew was one of the nominees as well. But considering the fact that Drew's not even a nominee, why do you even care? So I kind of agree with what y'all saying now that it was to embarrass Carlton. That was the primary move.
I think that's even what it was. I don't think it really had anything to do with Connor because I almost guarantee you if Carlton was not in that video and Connor was singing that song, I don't think he would have put that joint out. I think it was just he did it in front of a black dude and Carlton let it slide. That's all it was.
Yep. And of course, Carlton thinks Will did it, so we already know there's going to be some ramifications on that. Even though Will's defending himself and saying that he didn't, but Carlton's still going to look at him side eye and be like, "Yeah, you did it."
Mm-hmm. I knew that immediately before Connor even said anything.
What do we think about Will's team members? How do we feel about these team members? Some don't sit right with me with these fellows. I feel like they kind of on some.
I'm starting to think I got that same gist when they rode with him.
Yeah.
I was oh no, you driving, bro. And so I was like, man, they said you're dumbass. I was
him up.
And I'm wondering if y'all put them up to that, or if just they just kind of filling him out.
I feel like all of it was a 360. I feel like all of it is a 360. I feel like them going to the little chill hangout spot, the wings, Jackie, the setting him up. I feel like all that is tied in together.
I mean, it could be because in a sense, I was watching it and I was thinking I wonder if Jackie is fake drunk.
Right.
But then it was near the end, when she was getting into it with the girl, I was like, okay, she's not fake drunk. I was like, yeah, she lit. But I was like, why though? I was like, something had to happen.
Yeah, what
And I was
happened?
starting to think like maybe Doc said something to her and she didn't want to go through with it. And so that's what was pressuring her, like she's trying to forget about it, to drink more. And then, like you said, when the teammates was like, "That's your girl," I was like, wait a minute, like what? Like, is this a whole big like?
That's what I was thinking. And then they know about her because they were like, "Oh, Doc ain't gonna like that," and she lives with Doc, so everybody know how Jackie moves or whatever the case may be. And the fact that nobody else was trying to push up on her prior to Will, it just seems like everybody know that Jackie is off limits. So there's a story that needs to be unlocked with her. Yeah, untold story with her.
It's definitely untold.
I missed the scene prior to this one, or when Will was at the house and they came home. Him and Carlton came home. They were arguing about it. Aunt Viv and Uncle Phil, get involved and trying to figure out what's going on, why y'all arguing. Carlton tells them about the video and everything, and then of course a lot of stuff comes out in that conversation. About Uncle Phil helping Will, and it was just a whole bunch of back and forth because Carlton was upset with the fact that his father was helping Will.
Yep.
Will was upset with Uncle Phil because you told me to drop out, but Doc told me to stay. So it was just a whole bunch of other shit that was coming out. Yeah. And Will gets in his feelings again and says, "Oh, I don't need you for nothing." Yes, you do. You riding around in a brand new Lexus SUV. I take care of myself like I always have. Like, he's so fucking disrespectful. I'm just like, I wanted Uncle Phil to punch him in the mouth one good time.
Yeah, well, I didn't think they was gonna go to. I didn't think they was gonna go to like the full blows, but when he told Viv like, "Nah, I got this," at some point I thought it was gonna be like where her and Carlton was like gonna have to break them up, but it didn't get that. It didn't get that far. So,
like, I am so tired of everyone with Will. Go ahead, Really B.
No, so I agree with what you guys are saying. I agree. I feel like for me, I feel like that scene, I feel like Will was very disrespectful. Once again, it comes down to your commitment. And the reason why, again, they should have stayed out of it. And, when Uncle Phil was like, "Oh, he believes in you. Well, I see how much he believes in you when I stop, giving him this check every month." And my thing is, Will, you know how much it's costing. You know what's going on with that. Like, it doesn't mean that he doesn't believe in you, even though I don't think he does. But you can't be mad at Uncle Phil for saying, "Listen, you are not putting the commitment behind this that you told me you were going to put in." As far as the situation with old girl at the park with the players, I kind of go back and forth too, because something's not right about that whole situation, because I feel like it perfectly set Will up to tell Doc his business, tell him his secret.
Exactly.
So on one hand, I was like, okay, was this a perfectly set up plan, or was this coincidental and he took advantage of it? I'm gonna say this: when we saw Jackie and she was drunk, she was like, "It's been a rough week." What would have made sense is when Doc was telling the story. If Doc has, her mother, I raised her mother was young, blah, blah, blah. I tried to save her from making the mistakes her mother made. If he had just added one more sentence, all he had to say was, her mother isn't really around a lot, but she showed up this week. Or her mother called her this week. Or her mother got arrested this week. If he had just added one more line about something dealing with the mother, then her getting drunk would have made sense. But like y'all said, the players didn't seem to be surprised by her behavior. So I feel like this might be who she is. Like she does this. Like, so I'm with y'all. Like, some of it you could say, "Oh, it's coincidental," but then there's other things that I'm like, I don't know that. As far as his teammates, I think his teammates are legit. I think they were they weren't sure about him in the beginning. So they were, giving him a hard time, but he stayed around, he stayed committed. And I think that they're opening up to get to know him, because you could tell that was the first time that they had invited him to hang out, Yeah. So yeah. I don't know. I don't know. I'm on the fence about it.
Yeah,
I mean,
go ahead,
Retro.
Fresh. No, go ahead, Fresh.
No, I was saying like one of the main reasons why like I had the same way with you, why I had a feeling like they were, because it was like they were also trying to dig into his past, especially when he was like when Will told him like, nah, I'm from Philly, and oh really? Like it felt like they was trying to dig into his past and try to bring up or try to get information about the situation that happened in Philly. And then also just to piggyback off of Really B, I didn't like the joint because I'm like, yo, like, okay, first of all, what the hell is going on with her? I was like, second off, if I remember correctly, ain't she underage or is she not? Like, we have no clue.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm like, it's throwing me off because in Fresh Prince, the show, Will didn't meet Jackie until he was in college.
Yep.
Like Jackie didn't come. Well, I mean, he met her. He was back from Philly, but in the show, she didn't come till college. So I'm like, and I'm just like, okay, so he's still in high school, still in Bel Air, and I'm like, he meets Jackie. So I'm like, is Jackie old enough? Like, what it is? Like, she just come home, just get drunk. Doc don't go off about it. He don't really say nothing. And I'm like, what's going on? We promoting he's drinking. Like, what's going on? So that whole scene just had me like confused on what Really be. It should have been something in there somewhere that should have said why she acted out the way that she did.
Or what she was upset about. I agree.
What she was upset about.
They could have explained it in a way where we could have understood that she was genuinely upset about something and that it wasn't a setup. So
Yep.
It's kind of back and forth. You could take it, you can interpret it two different ways. Yeah.
Yep.
And you're right, Virgin Love. Maybe the team members are starting to respect Will a little bit, and maybe we're going to get a little bit more insight on Doc and Jackie through the team members. Maybe the team members, because it kind of like they were trying to give him a warning tonight. Like, you know, Doc ain't going to like the fact that she showed up drunk. When they said that, I'm like you, Fresh. I fully expected that when Will brought her home, Doc was going to go off.
Yep.
And he didn't
see the way she was.
Yeah, and he didn't seem to be
But
upset
it
about
it was almost like he's used to it.
Exactly. Or it was part of the grand bigger
Scheme of
plan.
things.
Yeah, because it was
Right.
the perfect setup for Will.
I would say this too. Right. And I'm going to say this too. Do y'all remember when Will did go back to practice, old boy wasn't there. He took old boy's spot. And Will was like, where is he? And he was like, you worried about it? Just get on the court. So something might happen with the other dude, the one that said he got the scholarship to UCLA.
Yep.
He wasn't at practice.
Yep, I forgot about that. You're right.
I didn't even peep that. I thought he was there. I thought it was somebody else's spot he was taking.
No, it was the no, because they even talked about it. You're right. I forgot all about that. Either way, I don't know what he's going to do with this information. The only thing that I can think of is he's going to use it to try to extort more money out of Uncle Phil, maybe.
Mm-hmm.
But at this point, you know, and you know what? Going back to what we were talking about earlier about the storylines from last season carrying over to this season, they totally scrapped the whole storyline with Fred Wilkins and him getting that information.
Yeah, they never went back to none of that.
Never went back to any of that.
Yeah, Lisa's dad, none of that.
Yeah, none of that. So I'm thinking that this is going to be a recycle of that storyline right there, where Doc is going to get a hold to that information, and they're going to have to deal with Doc because Doc is going to threaten to reveal that information. It's going to ruin Will's chance to get into a DNC, and it's going to ruin, or he's going to try to get some more money up out of Uncle Phil or something like that. So I think that's the ultimate motive, is finding out the secret and then threatening to reveal it.
Yep. I feel like the same way after when I forgot the dude's name. What was that? Like episode 2, where he showed him like who he was connected to. Like that was his nephew. So I feel like there's something like that's gonna come out. But yeah, it was just weird. I was for sure like he was gonna go off like or try to blame Will, like you brought her home drunk and all this other stuff, but none of that happened. So yeah, but now that you say that, really, maybe because maybe he wasn't there because since he had a scholarship, it was UCLA, right? Maybe he had to go. I don't know. Maybe they'll show it or something or talk
Yeah.
about it. But
Yeah, I
I
mean,
didn't peep
it might not be anything.
No, I think it's something there with that. I think it's something there with that because, like you said, Will, it was conveniently setting Will up to take his spot, which in other words is going to lure him in even more.
Mm-hmm.
So, and we see that Doc has a very strong hold on Will right now. So I think it's part of the, not necessarily that particular situation is part of the setup, but I think it's part of setting that storyline up to move forward where Will is even more ingratiated to Doc.
Yeah.
So let's get to the big discussion. I was saving it purposely for last because I feel like we're going to spend a little time talking about this. I do understand Jazz's insecurities, but I feel like he is wrong for taking them out on Hillary. So we see them out on a date. First of all, Jazz, you know that this ain't the type of restaurant that you would take a chick out on a date for. You know that your money probably wasn't comfortable enough for that, but you bring her to this 5-star restaurant, you order all her favorites, you're wining and dining her. Like, to me, you didn't have to do all of that. What needs to have happened was a conversation about what they had already been at odds about, but instead he tries to use this as a celebratory moment to say, well, congratulations on getting the Simply Spike deal and this and that. Really, it should have been a dinner date to resolve their pending conflict that they had between LaMarcus and him. The bill comes for the restaurant. His card doesn't go through. And I know as a black male, as a male in general, that's the most embarrassing thing that can happen to you in a public setting is that someone come back to you and tell you that your card is declined. Now, he says that he put money in the account, he had money, can you try the card again? I feel like the waitress was wrong as well because she should have did exactly what he asked. Go back and swipe the card again. But she's arguing with him and saying, it didn't go through, so do you have another method of payment? He's like, no, that is the method of payment. Swipe the card again. So Hillary was trying to diffuse the situation because that would have escalated with me. If I'm telling you to swipe my card again and you're telling me I don't have no money and I know that I have money, go do what I asked you to do. But I felt like Hillary's giving her card to the waitress to pay the bill wasn't to make Jazz look bad, was to try to, defuse the situation because the waitress was kind of amping it up a little bit where she kept saying, well, your card was declined, so do you have another payment or not? So instead of letting that get escalated to the knife power, she just said, here, just take my card and use it. And you saw that's what she did. She walked away with the card. But Jazz took that in a way that, oh, you trying to make me look bad or you trying to make me feel like I don't have no money. Like, all that wasn't even what that was about. So I feel Hillary. I'm Team Hillary on this. Like, listen, I am tired of dealing with your insecurities. You are the one that has a problem with this relationship. And the money thing, I've never made you feel like I can't be with you because you don't make the kind of money I make. So I just feel like it was Jazz and his own insecurities. It's Jazz's fault.
I agree. I agree 100%.
Okay.
Like,
well,
but
I'm Team Jazz. Yes, I'm Team Jazz, and let me explain why. Let me come back to explain why. So let me start from the beginning and work the way up. Hillary has done things to make Jazz feel insecure. Remember, this was Hillary's idea that it'd be a secret. It was Hillary's idea around. People want to introduce him. Let her family know. Remember how she threw it on her family, how she handled that, right? Hillary has done things to make Jazz feel like, now, does he own insecurities? Absolutely, he does. He does. And I think they're the same insecurities that any guy who is regular Joe Schmo. He's a business owner, but he's not a millionaire. Is dating a billionaire's daughter who kind of got her own money. Hillary got her own thing going on as well. So fast forward to this situation. I talked about that the week before last. It wasn't so much that her ex-boyfriend is an NFL player. It was the fact that he embarrassed himself in front of the guy. It was the fact that, you know, he was like, kissing his ass, fanning out over him or whatever. My problem with Jazz was the fact that he didn't communicate better. But here's the thing, and I know y'all are men, so I'm telling you from my perspective. The worst thing you can do is emasculate a man. Whether you mean to or not, the worst thing you can do is emasculate a man. And Jazz never said, "You're trying to embarrass me." What Jazz said was, "You don't have faith in me." When that woman came back and said, "Your card didn't go through, you didn't believe me," you automatically assumed I didn't have the money. You automatically assumed that I would take you to this 5-star restaurant and make sure that I had enough money in my account to cover the bill. So when that woman came back and said, "I'm sorry, your card was declined," and when I'm sitting here telling you, "No, I know there's money on that card," you didn't give me the benefit of the doubt. You didn't have faith in me. You immediately sided with her and said, "Here, just take my card." And so, right or wrong, that is how he felt. And that's what he was trying to explain to her. It wasn't about, "Oh, you embarrassed me, or you made me." He was like, "You didn't believe me. You didn't have faith in me." And in that moment, what you did not allow him to do was let a man be a man. And I understand what Retro was saying, that because the way because she should have just went and run the card again, because that's happened before. I mean, that's happened to me before. You run it don't go through, and I'm like, whoa, I know I got money, run it again. But remember, what I think also happened in that moment was that the waitress assumed he didn't have the money.
Right.
So rather than he didn't have money. So that's why I said I'm Team Jazz. Not that I feel like Jazz is handling this perfectly, because I think both of them are handling this badly in different areas. But in that moment, as it related to that bill, because as his woman, in my opinion, the way I would have handled it, I would have told the waitress, "Please go run the card again." And when she walked away, I would have said to him, "Here's my, just in case something is wrong, just in case something didn't happen, just in case the deposit didn't hit, I'm going to give him the card. And I'm still going to let him handle it. Even though the card got my name on it, it don't matter. I'm still going to let him handle it." Because you got to let him handle it. You see what I'm saying? So that's why I say I'm Team Jazz. Not I think they're handling it perfectly, because I think both of them have their faults in how they're handling it. But at the moment, that's why I say that.
Okay, Really B. So you know how I feel about that. So I agree with you on that. Let a man be a man. And, we've had similar discussions about that in other shows where we've reviewed, where we see where a woman inadvertently or purposely emasculates a man. So I understand that point. And me being in a situation, if I would have been in the situation where Jazz would have been in, I would have felt a little uncomfortable as well. But for me, I would have just had to have a backup plan. If I know I was going to a restaurant like that and I know that my money wasn't right, I would have made sure everything was point, had some cash in my pocket just in case. But I do.
That's the point. She didn't give him an opportunity. She didn't give that, and I agree. You would have made a backup plan, but she didn't even give him a chance. He said, "Run the card again. I know. I made sure I checked. There is money in that account. Run that card again." So that was like, I understand what you're saying, but she didn't give him a chance to go to plan B. You know what I mean?
But it's one of those situations where you just kind of have to react in the moment, because there wasn't really enough time for them to have that discussion in front of the waitress. Now, I agree with what you're saying. She should have looked towards the waitress and said, "Hey, can you please go run his card again?" And after she walked off, then there would have been an opportunity, like you said, for them to have that discussion. "Look, here's my card, just in case something go wrong. I believe that you got the money, or whatever the case may be. Maybe the deposit didn't go through or whatever, but here's my card in case she come back with some other ish." There was a way that she could have de-escalated him, because he's getting escalated at this point because he's upset about the fact that I'm embarrassed now because it looks like I don't have no money. So I feel like Hillary could have handled the situation simply by saying, "Hey, go run the car." So I agree with you on that. But going back to Xavier's comment, Xavier, you're right. Hillary did kind of create this whole insecurity within him when he tried to take her out before when they were sticky links. When he tried to take her out, and she said, "Oh, we can just go back to my 5-star bungalow instead." And that's how she said it. She was like, "Oh, we can go back to my 5-star bungalow and order room service." I think ever since in that moment, he has felt compelled to give her that lifestyle. So this just kind of added to the fact that previously when he tried to do some humble stuff to him, or he tried to, be regular Joe Blow, she wasn't receptive to that. So I think that's why he kind of went off the way he did when he got home, was because he was like, "Listen, I'm a setback for you. You'll come up for me." So I felt what he was saying by that, but at the same time, this is where you sit down and have that conversation. You explain to her why I'm feeling the way I feel. Really, me and you have been out and we went to restaurants and stuff, and we've always had a discussion prior to or even after the fact about, who's paying the bill, who's covering the bill. Hey, you know what? You get dinner, I get drinks. Hey, you get dinner, I get dessert, whatever the case may be. But there was no communication. So he feels like as a man, it's his role, it's his purpose to pay the bill. And when that didn't go his way in front of his lady, he was embarrassed.
Oh man, one of y'all can't hear me. I've been sitting there like, wait a minute, y'all can't hear me. First off, everybody needs to remember this is Will's fault. Because Will was the one that planted the seed in his head that he needed to go big or go home. So this is Will's fault, number one. Because I think if Will would have never said none of this, he would have never did what he did. I'm Team Hillary on this because, for one, it was like, although going back to what Xavier said, although she did kind of plant that seed, you got to remember what she was used to before Jazz. And once she got to know Jazz, she realized like, yo, I'm not that person. Like, she's not superficial, because she even told him like, I don't care about the money, I don't care about all of this other stuff, whatever. Like, I'm not superficial the way you think that I am. Because when he made that statement, like, you know what I'm saying, like, I'm an Uber driver walking on red carpets with you. Like, she was like, then I didn't think in that scene that she thought he didn't have the money. I thought it was more so like, yo, I'm trying not to. It was more, I don't want to say embarrassment, but it was more so like she didn't want a scene to unfold because everybody was looking. I don't think it was like, okay, he don't have the money. I think it was more so like, yo, let me diffuse the situation real quick. Like, yo, here, let's just get this, because she kept looking around when he was going off, and you know how I be with those. Like, she didn't want the whole angry black man and people getting the phones out and start recording.
Right, she's trying to de-escalate the situation.
That's how I took it. Now, I got what he was saying, that like, yo, you didn't give me a chance. I checked it. You didn't give me a chance, etc., whatever. But it was like, at the same time, it was like, yo, bro, you wouldn't have even done that if it wasn't for, one, Will planting that seed in your head, and then two, you wasn't worried about the football player. Like, your insecurity about him, like you wouldn't have done that. Like, y'all could have just linked up. I think if Will had planted that seed, just saying like, yo, y'all need to talk, it probably would have been totally different. So like, when she was just like, you know what, I can't do it. I was just like, I would have been the same way. Like, you know what, your insecurities, yo, like, yo, you got some issues. But I think it was just more so. I think it was just once he saw that, the football player, like, it's just like, yo, I can't compete. And that's really, to me, where that insecurity came in. Is once he saw football player showing up at the art joint, especially because she never, discussed it with him. he was just like, "Yo, I can't compete." But at the same time, I got a feeling like they're gonna get back together before the season's over. So.
No, they need to stay on this break. They need to stay on this break. He need to go on over there and be with H2 Ivy, and Hillary going to end up getting back with LaMarcus. But AOV, poor Will trying to help them out, and he didn't want the ex to get back with Hillary. I think it was Will's intention from the beginning. I think Really B said that back at the beginning of the episode that she felt like the only reason why Will got involved was because in last week's episode, LaMarcus said, "I'm gonna do whatever it takes to get my girl back." So by him trying to help, he created more harm. Yeah. And it was really, we forgot to talk about this part, but I was really shocked that they didn't give Will a one-on-one scene with Frederick. Like, I was like dreading that because I was like, oh Lord, Will's getting ready to come in and give his spin on where I was abandoned by my father too, and blah blah blah. I'm really glad they didn't do that. I really didn't want to see that between him because I didn't want him to influence Frederick's decision. We're gonna go back to the Hillary and Jazz thing in a minute. I just want to touch on this because I forgot this scene. So they're at the house, and Frederick is looking at all the pictures. He's hearing all the stories from the family of how Jeffrey's been this great guy over the years, and he decides in that moment that I'm just gonna leave and go home. And so, Jeffrey tries to find out why he's leaving, and he's like, I don't mean no harm, but I don't know you. I don't feel comfortable in this situation. I'm listening at how everyone thinks you're a great guy, but, I've not had a father all these years. And Jeffrey's reaction to that was like, well, we've been waiting so long for this moment. Let's not let it end on a bad note. He's like, well, I really like how mature they wrote Frederick. Like, they wrote him very mature for a 22-year-old, and they wrote him handling the situation very true. As he gets ready to leave, Uncle Phil approaches him and gives him a little bit of insight on what he didn't know. Like, you're adopted, but you grew up in a 2-bedroom flat. All those gangs that you tried to run with back in the UK, they didn't never accept you. Your parents were both out of work at the same time for over a year. You ate every day. You and your siblings had a roof over your head. Like, who you think did all that for you? So we learned that Jeffrey had been sending money and taking care of the family, not just him, but the whole family when they were going through struggle times. I like that. The only part I disliked about that story, hearing that part of it, was a little condescending to how they had been writing Jeffrey's character. They wrote it in such a way where Jeffrey had not had any dealings with the family or Frederick, that the adoption had been sealed. He didn't know where his son was, and now we hear that he had been taking care of him over the years. What did y'all think about that scene?
But I thought in the last episode, he told. I gotta watch it again, but I could have swore he told to Phil and Viv that, like, or maybe it was to Will, but I feel like in the last episode he had said that, like, he was sending them money. Because he explained, maybe it was to Will, because I think that's who it was. He explained the story to, about him getting into the gangs and all this other stuff. So maybe it was to Will, but I feel like he had said that, you know what I'm saying? Like,
it's still, for me, it makes it so condescending or contradictory at that point, because why have him looking for information about the son if he knew where the son was all along? If he knew where the son was all along, he had been sending money and taking care of him. What was the whole point of having him tear down Uncle Phil's office looking for information about where Frederick was and who had him?
He wasn't sending the money directly, but Uncle Phil was sending the money. He wasn't sending. I mean, I believe it was Phil. I mean, it was Jeffrey's money. But remember, Uncle Phil and that Viv. Remember, he said, "I need you to help, but I don't want to know. It's too dangerous for me to know where he is." So everything went through Uncle Phil. It was Jeffrey's money, but it was coming via Uncle Phil. So that's how Uncle Phil knew what he was doing.
That makes sense.
Okay, all that explains that away from me then.
Yeah.
What color are you talking about?
She's talking about Tariq. She's talking about Power. You haven't watched the episode yet, so that's why you don't know. She's talking about Power.
That's what you was talking
We
about.
can't be confusing shows.
I thought you was talking about Jeffrey Mama.
She
Frederick
was talking about Tariq. You didn't see her when she mentioned earlier that the coat that Tariq had on was nice.
I sure did.
Yeah. I got you, Virgin Love. I knew what you were talking about.
Oh, okay.
But yeah, okay, that right there explains it for me, really be. Yeah, Miss Sharon, I was confused too. I was confused too because I was like, if he didn't know what he was, how was he taking care of him? But it went through Uncle Phil. Okay, really be. You explained that. You explained
I felt like when Uncle Phil was telling him that, I was like, well, why didn't Jeffrey just tell him that in the story when he said, I told you I had my reasons? And I felt like, I was like, well, he could have shared that. But I knew as soon as Phil had said that, I was like, he ain't going nowhere. I was like, bro, probably won't stay right there. He ain't going nowhere.
Yep, and we saw that at the end of the episode, he decided to stay. And so we know that they're going to work on their relationship. So that was a good way to end that episode. Any other points in this episode that we didn't talk about that y'all want to hit on?
I I like the end. That pissed me off. I was for sure like, I'm like, bro, like, I get it. I was like, why would y'all write this man back to sniffing the Xanax?
Yeah,
like that part, and it was so crazy. I was like, well, Retro was right.
I told you.
We're gonna go back. I was like, yo, y'all could have just written where, like, I wanted that scene to where like maybe he poured it out, he was about to, then he just get mad and just like tosses it off. You know what I'm saying? I was just like, yo, now y'all making, I was like, y'all was going forward, now y'all just going backwards. And I was like, now y'all making this man to seem like, you know what I'm saying? And I for a second, I thought the same thing too. I thought when he took that second one, I was like, yo, bro, about the
doing too much. Actually, we all on the same page with that, because not only did I think he was going to OD, I thought the joint was laced because it came from Connor. And I was like, oh, God, he taking these drugs from Connor. Ain't no telling what's in it or whatever. I really expected him to pass out. Like, and actually, that would have really been a good plot twist if they would have wrote it that way, that he would have OD'd. And Will would have found him, or somebody would have found him and rushed him to the hospital. That would have been a really good story. And then it would have came out to the family that he had been doing drugs or whatever the case may be. That would have been a really good plot twist. But I wasn't fully like on pins and needles too. Like, oh my God, when he take the second hit, he's gonna pass out.
I figured if he didn't pass out, I was like, yo, he about to, because I didn't even think it was Xanax. I was like, yo, that's coke. So when he took that second one and he leaned back, I was like, oh, yo, bro, about to go on a rage real quick. Yeah, I thought they was about to show him like going this rage before it cut off. But I was still mad because I was like, yo, like, man, bro, y'all just had to write him back. So now he's back sniffing. And like now, so I'm guessing the next episode, we're just going to see him sneaking around, sniffing.
Back on them drugs again. Yep.
Exactly. Instead of sending him back to the Coco, they could have developed Ashley characters more. Because I don't even remember her being in this episode.
She wasn't.
It's like she's like and I hate to bring it up, but
Judy
like,
Winslow. She's
like whatchamacallit, because Virgin Love was talking about power. She's like the Tariq's sister now that just randomly popped up.
Yeah.
And like we ain't see everybody kept saying, where's Tariq's sister at? Where's Tariq's sister? Ain't never see her. Now all of a sudden she just pops back up. Like
Judy Winslow. She went upstairs and never came back down. All right, guys. Well, I don't know. I'm not sure how I feel about this season. Let's hope that they finish off real strong. We need the season to go out with a bang. So, this is not one of those shows. It's a drama. Yeah. It's not one of those shows that really have a whole bunch of action, but I need something to take it up an octave or two. And having Carlton have a bad reaction to the drugs would have been the perfect segue to bring the show up another notch, to give us a little bit more of the repercussions, because ultimately all roads were kind of led back to Will, because he had been using Will as a coping skill, so to speak, to not use. And sending him back to the drugs again would have really been a good message to send to Will that, listen, I need to be here more for my cousin. I'm not doing my part to keep my cousin focused and not have to use the drug. I really wanted Will to have to uh, deal with the consequences of Carlton, something happening or potentially happening to Carlton. Will needs a wake up call, and I need for them to give Will something to be remorseful about, because at this point he's not showing any type of humbleness or remorseful about any of his decisions and how it affects others. Even the whole situation with Lisa, I thought for a moment that they were going to give him a little bit of humility and have him be a little bit remorseful about how he handled the situation with Lisa. But still, he walks around on his high horse, and I need for them to bring him down just a notch to realize that, Will, you ain't lit. You think that you are, but you're not. So I need something to happen to bring Will back to reality, that, you know, decisions and sometimes our involvement in things causes grief for others. And even though he wasn't responsible for sending the video, because he's in this competition with Carlton, added pressure to him, and I needed Will to process that in such a way where he realized that I'm doing more harm to Carlton than help.
Yeah, I actually had that for a second before it cut off. I kind of thought Will was going to come in,
and catch him.
Yeah, catch him like right, and then it was just going to be like, "Yo, see, what are you doing?" And then it was just going to cut off. Or something like that. But yeah, like, I got a feeling, or at least I'm hoping, next episode, I think Will's going to figure out Carlton is back snorting, or Lisa's going to figure it out and say something to Will. And I think also Will is going to somewhat, in a sense, start to see the underlining thing with Doc.
Yep.
Like he's gonna start to notice certain little stuff, and he's gonna start to have his doubts or whatnot. So, but I hope next episode it just ain't Carlton just snorting 24/7 up the damn episode or whatever.
Yeah, I think next episode he gonna be wilding out.
I hope not, because like I said, y'all was going so forward, and now y'all just going backwards. I don't know if maybe they felt like they had to do that to reel people back in, but it was just like y'all was going so forward, and now y'all going backwards. So, but I hate that they also
saying earlier, the writing is all over the place. Like they're recycling storylines that were kind of reused and resolved. I feel like once him and Will resolve their conflict, that whole him having to, especially when they spent time at the beginning of the episode saying that they were taking him off the meds, he was doing so good. Like, I felt like that storyline was resolved. There was no need to go back and revisit that storyline again unless they're setting us up for something bigger. And like I said, and maybe we don't get it this episode, maybe we get it another episode where Carlton is going to eventually OD.
Yeah, I was thinking that too, because it reminded me of the episode of Fresh Prince where Carlton accidentally took all those speed pills and almost OD'd or whatever.
And that's what I'm waiting for. That's the episode that I'm waiting for. All right, Really B, any final thoughts?
No, I'm just excited to see how they're gonna wrap some of this stuff up. But no, I'm good.
Fresh, any final thoughts?
I hope it's not like I said, because if first season was 9, then that means we only got 2 more episodes left. I'm hoping they go to 10, because like it's too many unresolved stories. So I can only hope that next episode they touch on some of these stories. If not, I'm about to be writing a letter to Peacock and the writers like, hey, look, man, like, y'all dragging this joint. Like, y'all need to get some better writers up in there or something. It's
definitely a different vibe this season than it was last season.
Definitely put the emphasis on Ashley and the cursing, and like it's a whole bunch I can touch. But like I said, I didn't really
really care for this episode, so I'm hoping the next one is better.
And one more thing I want to hit on real quick. Going back to, again, what was the purpose of making Lisa Vivian's assistant and we not seeing them work together one time? Like, she helped out a little bit at the art show and that was it. That's all. Like, again, I need for y'all to add some synergy to these storylines that y'all are they're starting storylines and then they're not even revisiting them in the next episode. Like, that's where I get frustrated at, because I forget all about certain things that happen because they don't keep consistency in the writing. There's no synergy.
Yeah, I thought maybe they just, I guess I took that as like they just left it up to us to assume that after she told Will they couldn't be friends anymore. Like,
She wasn't gonna come around no more.
Yeah, she just told, like, she just wasn't gonna come around no more. She told Aunt Viv, like, you know.
Well, something Xavier just said kind of made me revisit that thought, because he's right. There's only two people that know about Carlton's drug use, and that's Lisa and Will. So going back to the episode where Lisa kind of inadvertently revealed or accidentally revealed that Will and Carlton were both running for the Founders Award, I needed her to have another scene with Aunt Viv where she revealed something else that's going on up there at their school. Like, you know, Carlton is having issues with this guy at the school, or Carlton's anxiety is not getting any better. Like, I needed them to continue that moment where Lisa is actually one that's putting everyone on notice on what's going on with Carlton, even if she was doing it with Will, because at one point she was telling Will, you know, keep an eye on Carlton or whatever the case may be. So I needed her to be the one to bridge the gap between what's happening with Carlton up there at that school, and because they're not getting any information from Will, which by this point Uncle Phil should have approached Will and asked, hey, how's everything going up there at the school with Carlton? How's everything been going with Carlton since he's got off the meds? So they're not using Will to be that source of information. So they started it with Lisa. They need to continue it with Lisa.
Yeah. And you might be right. Maybe that might be the joint that her and Carlton get back together. Because you've been claiming it all season. You've been claiming it all season that Carlton and Lisa were going to get back together. Maybe that might be it. I don't see it, but you possibly.
Well, does he have ammo bail? Because did Will even reveal what happened in Philly? Because it kind of flipped to the next scene, right? I don't think he actually revealed what happened in Philly.
Yeah, I think
he told him.
That.
He told him because when they were at campus, he don't call him Bel Air anymore. He called him North Philly or West Philly, whatever. Remember when they were at practice, he said, "Get on the line, West Philly." So he told him.
Okay. See, that I'm aggravated because I needed to have seen that. I needed to have seen it. They alluded to the fact that Will was getting ready to reveal, because especially when Doc was like, oh, well, I guess you don't trust me or whatever. So you are applying pressure for him to be forthcoming with you. So I guess maybe so. Okay. All right, guys. Well, that's going to wrap it up for us tonight on Bel Air. Y'all make sure y'all check us out. We're getting ready to jump over and do our first thoughts on Power. And then make sure y'all check us out on Sunday for our live review. Y'all know we go in.
DJ.
Huh?
No, DJ. I was like, don't say nothing, DJ. Don't say nothing.
Oh no, I wasn't gonna say nothing on here. Nah. I wasn't gonna say nothing on here.
But yeah, y'all come back and check us out for our Power recap, and we'll see you guys next week for Bel Air. Peace, everybody.
All right, night, y'all.